My name is Michael Dawson, 68 years old, father of one son, and the man who thought he had already seen everything life could throw at him. But nothing prepared me for the storm that entered my home the day my son married Emily. When Emily first walked into our family, I welcomed her as if she were my own daughter. She was young, polite, always smiling, and had that way of speaking sweetly that could melt even a hardened man's heart. My son Daniel, who worked long hours abroad in finance, adored her, and I told myself, good, at least my boy will never be alone. I gave her trust. I gave her respect. I gave her my home. But betrayal often comes not with a knife in the back, but with a smile at the dinner table. Dad. Emily's voice cut through the silence one afternoon as I sipped tea on the veranda. You know Daniel sends his paycheck every month, right? I was thinking maybe I should handle all the household expenses from now on. You don't need that burden at your age. I lowered my cup slowly, staring at her. Her words were gentle, her tone soft, but something inside me shifted. At 68, you don't ignore your instincts. You learn to listen to the little cracks in people's voices. I smiled faintly. Emily, my dear, I've been running this household for 40 years. Don't you worry about me. Just focus on yourself and Daniel. Let me handle the bills. Her smile twitched for a second, just for a second, but I caught it. And in that twitch, I saw something I could not yet explain: ambition, greed, a hunger that didn't belong in a daughter-in-law's eyes. When you're a father, you learn to observe quietly. My generation, we don't confront right away. We watch. We let the truth reveal itself. I sat there in my old wooden chair, listening to the rain clouds gathering in the distance, and thought to myself, Michael, don't be paranoid. She's young. She wants responsibility. Don't judge her so quickly. But another voice, one much older, much sharper, whispered back, be careful. Trust is the most expensive gift. Don't give it away cheaply. Stay with me, because what I discovered in the weeks that followed didn't just shake my trust in Emily. It shattered my faith in family itself. And one rainy night, when shadows moved in my living room and whispers echoed in the dark, I realized my own daughter-in-law wasn't the angel we thought she was. She was a storm waiting to destroy everything I had built. In the beginning, life seemed normal. Emily cooked, smiled, even asked me to tell stories of my youth, about how I built our small estate, how I worked my way from construction labor to owning 3 rental properties. She laughed at my old jokes, called me Dad, with that sweet voice. But her phone never left her hand, always buzzing, always lighting up, and she would excuse herself, into the kitchen, into her room, into the garden. At first, I thought maybe it was my son calling from abroad, but soon I noticed something strange. Whenever Daniel called me on weekends, he sounded distant, distracted. Dad, Emily said you're handling the money too strictly, he said one evening over the phone. She says you don't trust her. Is that true? I froze. My heart sank. Emily had been whispering poison into my son's ears. No, son, I replied calmly. You know me. Every dollar I spend is for this family. But remember this, never let money come between us. Daniel sighed. I know, Dad. I trust Emily, and I don't want any conflict between you two. I forced a smile, though he couldn't see it through the phone. Don't worry, son. I'll take care of everything. You focus on your work. But deep inside, I knew something had changed. Emily was building a wall between father and son. One rainy evening, I returned from the local market earlier than expected. As I approached the house, I heard laughter inside, male laughter. Deep, confident. It wasn't Daniel. I paused outside the door, heart pounding like a war drum. Through the slightly open window, I saw Emily sitting on the sofa, her hair let down, smiling in a way I had never seen before. Next to her sat a man I had never met. His hand rested a little too comfortably on hers. My breath caught. My fists clenched. The betrayal had a face now. I stepped back quietly, my shoes soaking in the rain, and in that moment I made a vow. Emily, You may think I am old and weak, but you've underestimated the wrong man. This is my house, my blood, my legacy, and I will not let you steal it from me. Rain has a way of washing the truth to the surface. That night, as the drops pelted against the windows, I couldn't shake the image of Emily with that stranger in my living room. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly. At my age, sleep doesn't come easy. But that night, it was impossible. My heart whispered, confront her now. Expose her lies. But my mind, colder, wiser, said, wait, watch. The snake always reveals itself if you stay still long enough. The next morning, I acted as if nothing had happened. I greeted Emily at breakfast, thanked her for the tea, even complimented the parathas she had made. She smiled sweetly, as if nothing was wrong, but her eyes betrayed her. They flickered nervously every time her phone buzzed. Emily, I said casually, sipping tea. Who was that man I heard last night? Her spoon froze midair. Man? What man? The television, she said quickly. I was watching a drama. Maybe that's what you heard. I nodded slowly. Maybe. But I knew. And she knew I knew. 2 days later, Emily left her phone on the counter while she went to hang clothes outside. It buzzed with a message. I glanced. The screen lit up with the name Ryan. My stomach dropped. I shouldn't have touched it, but something in me couldn't resist. The message read, last night was perfect. Next time, let's meet at the cottage. He'll never know. The cottage. My cottage. The one I had built 30 years ago as a weekend escape for my wife, before she passed. My hands trembled. My late wife's memory, that sacred place, and Emily was defiling it. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I called my old friend Henry, a retired police officer. Henry, I said, my voice low. I need you to keep an eye on someone. Discreetly. He chuckled. Michael, you sound like you're in one of those crime dramas. What's going on? I swallowed hard. My daughter-in-law. I think she's having an affair. And she's planning something worse. There was silence on the line. Then Henry sighed. All right, old friend. Send me the details. I'll see what I can find. That weekend, Daniel called. His voice was cheerful. Dad, Emily tells me you're being a bit controlling with money. Please, just let her handle some of it. She's my wife. I trust her. I closed my eyes. Trust. That word cut deep. Daniel, I said slowly. Trust is not a gift you give blindly. It's something earned every day. Remember that. He laughed lightly. Dad, you worry too much. Emily loves us. She's not like that. If only he knew. But I held back. I wasn't ready to shatter his illusion just yet. A week later, Henry called me. You were right, he said gravely. I followed her to the cottage. She wasn't alone. That man, Ryan, was with her. And Michael, his voice hardened. They were going through your documents. Property papers. Bank files. They're planning something. My chest tightened. They weren't just betraying me emotionally. They were after everything I had built. That night, as thunder cracked outside, I sat in my study, staring at my wife's sold photograph on the desk. Margaret, I whispered. I failed to protect our son from her lies. But I will not fail to protect our legacy. I promise you that. I began to draft a new will, one that Emily would never see coming. And I set my own trap. I waited. I waited with the patience only a father in his late 60s can muster. Because sometimes, exposing betrayal isn't about storming into the fire. It's about letting the flames grow high enough that they burn the guilty on their own. It was late evening when I returned home from the market. The rain was pounding hard against the roof, and thunder rolled like drums of war. I stepped inside, placing the groceries on the counter. Emily was there, dressed elegantly, too elegantly for a night at home. Her eyes widened when she saw me. You're early. I smiled faintly. So it seems. Going somewhere. She stammered. Oh, just meeting a friend. The lie was smooth, but not smooth enough. My eyes narrowed. Ryan. Her face drained of color. She quickly regained composure. You've been spying on me, haven't you? You old man. You don't understand. Daniel deserves better. He deserves someone who can help him, who can build his future, not someone clinging to dusty traditions. Her words cut like a knife, but it was the venom in her tone, the disdain for me, that fueled the fire in my chest. I stepped closer, my voice firm. Emily, listen to me carefully. This is my house, my legacy, my blood. You may fool my son, but you will never fool me. Whatever game you're playing, it ends here. She smirked, crossing her arms. Or what? You think Daniel will believe you over me? I'm his wife. He loves me. He trusts me. You're just an old man holding on to power. I clenched my jaw, holding back the fury rising within me. Patience, Michael. Patience. The snake always bites itself. The following morning, Daniel returned from his overseas trip, unexpectedly. Emily hadn't planned on him walking in at that moment. I greeted him warmly, hiding my burden behind a smile. But Emily, she wasted no time. She rushed to him, tears streaming down her face. Daniel, she cried, pointing at me. Your father. He doesn't want us to be together. He's trying to destroy our marriage. He spies on me, accuses me, treats me like a criminal. Daniel's face darkened. He turned to me. Dad, is this true? I stared at my son, the boy I had raised with these very hands. My throat tightened. Daniel, I said quietly, I only want what's best for you. I've seen things I can't ignore. You need to open your eyes. Emily grabbed his arm, sobbing. Don't listen to him. He hates me. He wants to control everything. He'll never accept me. And in that moment, my son, my only son, looked at me not with love, but with doubt. That hurt more than any betrayal. Later that night, after Daniel went to bed, I went to the study to secure my documents. But the safe was open. Papers were scattered. Property deeds, bank passbooks, everything had been touched. And sitting right on top was a document Emily hadn't hidden properly. A forged signature of mine on a property transfer form. My hands trembled as I held it. Not only was she cheating, she was stealing. Slowly, methodically, she was trying to erase me. I stormed into the living room, where she was seated smugly, scrolling her phone. Enough, I roared, slamming the papers onto the table. You dare forge my name? You dare touch what I've built with my blood and sweat? Her eyes flickered with shock, then amusement. So what if I did? Daniel will inherit everything anyway. I'm just accelerating the process. You should thank me. I stepped closer, my voice shaking with rage. You think you've won? You think you can play God with my family? No, Emily. You've awakened the wrong man. I may be old, but I'm not weak. You will pay for this. I promise you. Her smile faded for the first time. She realized then, Michael Dawson was not a man to be underestimated. The very next morning, I called Mr. Harris, my old lawyer, a man who had stood by me through every land deal, every contract, every battle. He arrived with his gray briefcase, adjusting his spectacles as he entered my study. Michael, he said, it's been a while. You sounded urgent. I handed him the forged papers. Look at this. She's trying to transfer property in my name. He scanned the document, his brows furrowing. This is a crime. Fraud. And sloppy fraud at that. If this goes to court, she won't stand a chance. I leaned closer. I don't just want her exposed. I want to make sure she never touches a single brick of what I've built. Mr. Harris nodded gravely. Then we'll draft a new will. One she cannot challenge. And we'll gather evidence, solid, undeniable. And just like that, the game had changed. Over the next week, I played the role of the harmless old man. I smiled at Emily, pretended to forget things, acted weaker than I was. But in reality, I had placed voice recorders in the living room, the study, even near the cottage. It didn't take long. One evening, Ryan came over. Their whispers filled the house. Emily's voice was sharp. Once he's gone, Daniel will be mine completely. We'll have everything. This house, the land, the accounts. The old fool can't live forever. Ryan laughed. And when he dies, we'll sell the property. Move abroad. Start fresh. Every word was captured. Every venomous syllable. I tried once more to warn Daniel. I sat him down in the garden, the smell of wet earth heavy in the air. Son, I said gently, you need to be careful. Emily is not who you think she is. He sighed, frustration clouding his face. Dad, please. I know you don't like her, but she's my wife. Stop making me choose between you two. I looked into his eyes, seeing the boy I raised slipping further into her grip. It broke my heart, but I knew the truth would come crashing down on him soon enough. The opportunity came faster than I expected. Daniel's birthday. Emily insisted on hosting a grand dinner, inviting relatives and close friends. The table was full of laughter, glasses clinking, candles glowing warmly. But beneath that warmth, I saw the cold shadow of betrayal. Halfway through dinner, I stood, raising my glass. I'd like to make a toast, I said, my voice steady. To family, to trust, and to the truth. Emily's smile froze. She sensed it. I pulled out a small recorder and pressed play. Her voice filled the room. Once he's gone, Daniel will be mine completely. We'll have everything. The old fool can't live forever. Gasps echoed around the table. Daniel's fork clattered to the floor. His face turned pale as his wife's betrayal spilled into the open. Emily stammered, That's not me. He's twisting things. But it was too late. The truth had been spoken, and no lie could erase it. Daniel stood slowly, his eyes wide with shock and pain. Emily, tell me this isn't real. She reached for him desperately. Daniel, please, I love you. But he pushed her hand away. Love, you plotted to steal from my father. You plotted against me. Was any of it real? Tears streamed down his face. And for the first time, I saw my son's blind trust shatter into pieces. Emily collapsed into her chair, her mask torn off for the world to see. I looked around the table, then back at Emily. You thought age made me weak. You thought kindness was foolishness. But you forgot something, Emily. Experience is the sharpest weapon. I've lived long enough to see every kind of betrayal, and I've never seen one end well for the betrayer. I turned to Daniel, my voice softening. Son, I'm sorry you had to learn this way, but sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that save us. The stormy night had passed, but the storm inside Robert's heart raged stronger than ever. He sat alone in his study, the room dimly lit by the weak morning sun struggling through the rain-stained windows. His mind replayed everything he had uncovered: his son's betrayal, his daughter-in-law schemes, the cruel laughter he had overheard. His once proud family home now felt like a stranger's house. The walls whispered betrayal, the air smelled of deceit. But Robert was not a man to be broken. He had built his life through storms harsher than this one, and he knew how to fight back. That morning, Robert called his trusted lawyer, Mr. Howard, a man who had stood by him for decades. Howard, Robert's voice was low but firm. It's time to set things in motion. I will not let them tear down everything I built. Within hours, Howard arrived with thick folders of documents, contracts, wills, property deeds, and evidence Robert had carefully gathered. For months, Robert had been quietly preparing for this day. He had noticed small discrepancies before: the strange withdrawals, the forged signatures, the late-night whispers. His heart had suspected betrayal long before his eyes had seen it. But what his son didn't know was that Robert had already secured a hidden clause in his will, a clause that stated, any heir found guilty of deceit, fraud, or betrayal against the family shall be stripped of all inheritance. Robert looked at the documents and whispered, more to himself than to his lawyer, my son thought I was blind, but a father always sees. The following evening, Robert invited his son Daniel and daughter-in-law Claire to dinner. It was a rare gesture, and they both were uneasy. They had planned to tighten their grip on his fortune soon, and this sudden invitation felt suspicious. The dining room was quiet except for the sound of forks scraping against porcelain. Robert sat at the head of the table, calm, his sharp eyes fixed on them. Finally, he broke the silence. "Daniel Clare," he began, his tone almost casual. "I know everything." Daniel's fork froze in midair. Claire's face turned pale. What do you mean, Dad?" Daniel stammered. Robert leaned back in his chair, his voice steady as steel. "I know about the secret bank transfers. I know about the property deeds you tried to forge. And Claire," he looked at her directly, "I know about your late-night meetings with your friend." Claire's hand trembled, nearly spilling her wine. Daniel's face burned red, with a mix of anger and fear. You don't have proof." Daniel shouted. Robert smiled coldly. "That's where you're wrong, son. I have every proof I need." He slid a folder across the table. Inside were copies of the documents, recordings, and photographs. Daniel's hands shook as he flipped through them, realizing the game was over. "Daniel," Robert said quietly, his voice filled with a mixture of pain and authority, "I gave you everything. My time, my love, my life's work, and you chose greed over blood." Tears welled in Robert's eyes, but his voice did not waver. "You are my son, but tonight, you are also my greatest disappointment." The room fell silent. The only sound was the rain tapping against the window. Daniel's head dropped. Claire sat frozen, her betrayal laid bare. And Robert knew. The real reckoning was about to begin. The night rain had finally stopped, but the air outside David's home was thick with the smell of wet soil and betrayal. Inside, tension wrapped around every corner of the room. David sat in his armchair, calm but resolute. He had spent weeks preparing for this night, the night when Emma and Ryan's mask would be torn off completely. Emma entered first, her eyes darting nervously as though she knew the storm was coming. Ryan followed, arrogant as always, flashing the same smug grin he had worn when David first suspected him. "Why did you call us here?" Emma asked sharply, her voice trembling despite her attempt to sound strong. David leaned forward, his gray hair glistening under the dim light, his eyes burning with the pain of betrayal. "Because tonight, the truth stands taller than your lies." He placed a thick folder on the table. Inside were documents, photographs, and audio recordings, every betrayal laid bare. Michael, who had been quiet for weeks, finally stepped into the room. His face was pale, but his eyes were fiery. "Emma," Michael's voice cracked with both rage and sorrow, "how could you do this to us? I gave you my loyalty, my trust, my heart, and you repaid me with Ryan." Emma's lips quivered. "Michael, it wasn't supposed to." "Don't," David cut her off sharply. "Don't insult us further. You betrayed my son, my family, and thought I would be too weak to see it. But I've lived long enough to know that snakes always reveal themselves." Ryan scoffed, crossing his arms. "So what now, old man? You think some papers and recordings scare us? Emma and I are moving forward, with or without your approval." That was his mistake. David gave a cold smile and stood tall, shoulders squared like a warrior ready for battle. He pointed at Ryan. "Moving forward? You won't even move freely. Because you, Ryan, are already finished." Just then, the door opened. 2 uniformed officers stepped inside. Emma gasped. Ryan's smugness vanished instantly. "You both thought you were clever," David continued, his voice rising like thunder. "But I traced every stolen dollar, every fake signature, every scheme you used to drain this family, and I gave it all to the law." Emma's knees buckled, her tears flowing freely now. "No, David, please, you don't understand. Enough," Michael said, his pain pouring out as anger. "You destroyed my marriage, my trust, my dignity. And Dad," his eyes filled with tears as he looked at David, "you almost destroyed him too. But you failed, because he's stronger than both of us ever knew." The officers handcuffed Ryan, who shouted curses as they dragged him out. Emma collapsed, begging, sobbing uncontrollably. But David stood firm, his face carved with both heartbreak and strength. "You chose betrayal over family," David said coldly. "Now live with the consequences. This house, this family, this legacy, it was never yours to poison." Emma's cries echoed as she was taken away. Silence returned, heavy but freeing. Michael fell to his knees before his father. "Dad, I'm sorry. I was blind. I should have seen it sooner." David placed his hand on Michael's shoulder. "You were hurt, son. Love blinds us all. But remember this, a father may bend, but he does not break. Betrayal may wound us, but it cannot end us." The rain started again outside, softly this time, as though the heavens themselves were cleansing the poison that had infected their lives. David looked out the window, his heart heavy but proud. He had faced the storm, and though scarred, he had stood tall. This was more than justice. This was karma. And tonight, karma had spoken.